The Grand Senator of the Zoltan Empire surveyed Earth through the viewport of his opulent starship. This primitive backwater, this blue marble, it was barely worth the expenditure of fuel to reach it. Still, even the most insignificant outposts were obliged to pay their taxes, and the humans had been growing lax.
Senator Verlox,
his aide hissed, the sibilant syllables typical of Zoltan's speech.
The human delegation approaches.
Verlox adjusted his shimmering headdress with disdain. At least these pathetic little creatures had learned to bow and scrape. A small comfort for his boredom. The reception chamber doors hissed open, and a small group of humans entered. The leader, a man with deeply tanned skin and a head shaved smooth, wore simple robes unlike the jeweled finery of the Empire's elite. His eyes, however, glittered with what Verlox dismissively assumed was simple defiance.
Welcome, Delegate Agil.
Verlox slithered his greeting.
Your world is long overdue in its tribute to the Empire. You understand.
We understand perfectly, Grand Senator, Akil interrupted. His voice was strong, lacking the expected whine of subservience. Annoyance flickered in Verlox's multifaceted eyes. But there will be no tribute today or ever again. Verlox tilted his scaled head. This was amusing. Perhaps this trip wouldn't be entirely dull after all.
And what just makes an insignificant species like yours think you can defy the Empire?
Akil smiled, and a cold certainty washed over Verlox. This was not the nervous bravado of cornered prey. It was something far more dangerous. Because, Grand Senator, the human said calmly, appearances can be very deceiving. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Verlox swiveled towards the viewport. A tear had opened in space itself just outside the atmosphere of this primitive little world, and from it poured warships. Ships so sleek, so impossibly advanced, that they made his own flagship look like a child's toy.
Impossible,
he hissed, his composure finally shattering.
Where? How?
Akil's smile widened. While you grew complacent, Grand Senator, we were preparing. Our scientists may have played the role of simpletons to satisfy your arrogance, but they are anything but. Say hello to Earth's hidden fleet. Verlox's heart pounded against his scaled chest. Those starships, they moved with an impossible grace, outmaneuvering his bewildered guardships with ease. Their technology signatures, he couldn't comprehend the sheer power they radiated. Zoltan technology was considered pinnacle, but this was something beyond his wildest nightmares.
How long?
He managed to force the words from his throat.
How long have you deceived us?
Akil tilted his head thoughtfully. For centuries. We learned long ago that the loudest roar in the galaxy often belongs to its most fragile creature. Your empire, for all its grandeur, has grown stagnant. Content, while we toiled, you basked in your supposed superiority. Fury boiled beneath Verlox's fear now.
You will pay for this treachery,
he screeched, spittle flying from his lipless mouth. Perhaps, Akil conceded, but the Empire will suffer far more than we ever will. It is said that pride comes before the fall, Grand Senator. That fall begins today. Across Earth's comm channels, voices crackled with anticipation. Admiral Zhang, an old woman with hard eyes and laugh lines that told tales of a life spent defying expectations, addressed her fleet. Today, warriors of Earth, we discard a mask worn for far too long. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity does not cower. Today, we fight. The hidden fleet surged forward, a wave of shimmering steel against the Zoltan ships. Now a panicked disarray. Zoltan energy cannons spat bursts of light, desperate and ineffectual against the humans' advanced shielding. Earth's ships answered with blinding beams of not heat or plasma, but something else. Something that warped the very fabric of space around them. The Zoltan vessels buckled and twisted, their hulls screaming as unnatural forces tore them apart. Verlox watched, his ornate headdress slipping from his slick scalp as utter disbelief consumed him. The humans were not merely toying with them, they were annihilating them. A transmission sputtered through. Not the usual Zoltan comms, but an old, nearly forgotten human frequency. Admiral Zhang's face filled the viewscreen of Verlox's ship, her expression unreadable. Grand Senator, she addressed him, her voice echoing through the bridge. Your fleet is in disarray. Surrender, and your warriors may yet have a chance to see their homeworld again. Verloc sputtered. Surrender. To these primitives, it was unthinkable. It was a humiliation beyond measure. Yet, the devastation playing out before him was undeniable.
You will never take our empire,
he rasped, clinging to his pride like a drowning man to a piece of driftwood.
There are thousands of worlds, millions of warships.
But none of them wield the power you see here. Zhang cut him off, calmly. This is merely a fraction of what we possess. The galaxies change, Senator. And your empire is ill-equipped to face what it's become.
Lies.
Verloc screeched, his sanity teetering on the edge. The truth is often unwelcome, Zhang said, her voice tinged with a hint of pity. I offer this choice not out of mercy, but pragmatism. Further conflict serves no one. You can return to your empire bearing news of Earth's might, or you can die here, and your legacy will be one of pointless destruction. The Grand Senator closed his multifaceted eyes. His world, his status, his entire concept of the galaxy and his place within it, it was all crumbling before him.
Repair a surrender transmission,
he finally whispered, the words tasting like acid. A wave of relief washed over Zhang, but her face remained stoic. She had never wanted this war, but her ancestors had instilled a deep lesson. If you want peace, prepare for battle. Earth was finally ready. The news reverberated through the Zoltan Empire like an earthquake. Their Grand Senator captured, their fleet shattered by an inferior race from an insignificant world they'd lorded over for centuries. Chaos erupted. Some factions cried for vengeance, a bloody crusade to crush the human upstarts back into the drift. Others, terrified by Earth's display of power, saw the wisdom in the Grand Senator's surrender. The human fleet, however, did not march triumphantly on the Zoltan homeworld. Admiral Zhang had a different strategy, one hammered out in the hidden bunkers beneath the world's seemingly primitive cities. Instead of conquest, they offered a partnership. Earth would share their technology, but with strict caveats. The Empire would dismantle its most aggressive arms, submit to trade treaties with strict oversight on arms manufacturing. They would become part of a new galactic order, one where no single species held total dominance. Zoltan traditionalists screamed that this was bowing to the yoke of their former slaves. But cooler heads, the ones who could see that Earth held the power to obliterate their entire civilization, prevailed. Slowly, grudgingly, the Empire began to adapt. It was not a smooth transition. There would always be those who clung to the old ways, to dreams of rearmament and reconquest. Skirmishes broke out across the vast territory of the former Empire, but Earth's fleet acted swiftly, not as conquerors, but as peacekeepers. Time, the humans hoped, would be their ally. On Earth, however, celebration was tempered with caution. Admiral Zhang, in her frequent, heavily guarded dispatches to the Zoltan Empire, continually stressed the long game. They resent us, she warned Earth's leaders, but resentment can fade. What cannot be allowed is them viewing us with fear. Fear breeds desperation and hatred. We have given them hope for a future in the stars, a path away from stagnation. Now it's up to us to prove that path leads to prosperity. Akil stood on the observation deck of the human flagship, now a symbol of both terror and hope within the crumbling empire. Beside him, a Zoltan dignitary, Envoy Lornak, looked out at the swirling nebula unfolding before them. Once, this would have been a sight of wonder that only elites like him enjoyed. Now, it was shared with a simple delegate from a world he'd once sneered at.
It is.
Lornak struggled for words, the scales along his jaw flaring with a mix of awe and unease.
Breathtaking.
Akil smiled. He knew just how Lornak felt. When his own people had first rediscovered the secrets of slipstream travel, he'd spent hours in this very room lost in the vast dance of the cosmos. It's dangerous, too, Akil added softly. The universe holds a beauty and terror in equal measure. We have always known that. Lornak tilted his large head.
Your species. You were content to live with simple things. Farming, art. You never reached for the stars as we did.
And the stars you reached for nearly crushed you, Akil pointed out. No, envoy, we did not forget the stars. We studied them, learned from them. We remembered how small we truly are. It breeds a certain kind of caution. Lornak remained silent, his gaze now distant. Akil knew what the Zoltan saw, the reflection of his once mighty empire, humbled, and facing a fragile future.
It will take generations,
Lornak finally said,
for our peoples to trust one another.
Akil gave him a somber nod, and even then, trust will be a tenuous thing. Peace is never a given, but hope, that can be nurtured. Today, we plant that seed, envoy. It falls to our children and their children to see it blossom. The decades churned like the ceaseless spin of planets. The peace, as expected, proved brittle. There were Zoltan hardliners, pockets of resistance that clung to the dreams of retribution. Earth's fleet, ever watchful, intercepted stolen weapon shipments, foiled assassination plots, and each time, Admiral Zhang, now nearing the end of her long life, sent a consistent message: restraint. We cannot be the aggressors, she would stress to angry world leaders eager for a more overt display of power. To do so makes us the very thing we oppose. But peace was not merely the absence of war. Trade routes sprouted between once isolated worlds. Joint scientific ventures unlocked mysteries of energy production and disease eradication that benefited both human and Zoltan alike. Cultural exchanges, first tentative, then bolder, began to break down the walls of suspicion. It started with the small things. A Zoltan opera troupe performing on a human stage to thunderous applause. Human engineers sharing anti-grav tech blueprints with their former overlords. Children, both scaled and smooth-skinned, playing together under the light of alien suns. The old guard, both human and Zoltan, grumbled at this mingling. They warned it was a dangerous path, that their core identities would be diluted, subsumed. But the young, the ones born into this uneasy alliance, they cared little for outdated enmities. A century after the Battle of Earth, a new monument was unveiled on the planet's surface. It depicted not a triumphant human warrior, nor a cowering Zoltan, but a single open hand reaching skyward. Carved around its base, in both Earth's flowing script and the harsh angles of the Zoltan tongue, was a simple inscription: May this be a hand of hope, not conquest. Admiral Zhang, impossibly ancient yet still sharp as a newly forged blade, attended the dedication. In her eyes, her descendants saw not the fire of war, but a determined weariness. The galaxy was a brighter place than the one she'd been born into, but the work was never truly done. There would always be those who chose division, who sought power through dominance. Yet even Zhang had to marvel at what her once hidden fleet had wrought. The galaxy had transformed. The Zoltan Empire, while still a formidable power, was no longer the sole hegemon. Trade alliances, defensive pacts, and collaborative ventures wove a web of interdependence between worlds. The thirst for knowledge outweighed the hunger for conquest. Perhaps the most poignant change was in the human spirit. Once, they had hidden their strength out of necessity. Now, it was channeled into something far more powerful. Earth became a nexus for the dispossessed, the forgotten. Species ravaged by tyrants, ostracized by the old galactic order, found refuge and opportunity in the cradle of humanity's rebirth. It wasn't an entirely selfless act. Earth's leaders, seasoned by Zhang's wisdom, knew that building allies was the best insurance against the resurgence of aggression. Grateful worlds were far less likely to turn on their benefactors. In this new tapestry, humans found their unique place. Their technology was shared widely, but never fully released. Earth's fleet, the watchful guardian, held the knowledge of weapons so powerful they were best left as a deterrent, a whispered threat at the edge of the known universe. Humans became navigators, diplomats, peace brokers. Their capacity for deception, honed over centuries of survival, was now tuned towards fostering understanding, smoothing the rough edges of interspecies relations. They were the bridge builders of a new galactic age. The old Zoltan, Envoy Lornak, once Akil's counterpart, mused on this during a joint diplomatic summit. Now frail, the scales on his face faded with age, he sat with his human friend, watching the swirl of delegates from a dozen different worlds.
You are never the weak ones, Akil,
Lornak said, his voice a rasp.
We simply failed to see your true strength.
Akil smiled. It was a tired smile, etched by a lifetime of vigilance. Sometimes, he replied, the greatest strength lies not in the weapons you choose to wield, but the ones you choose to leave sheathed. But even in this bright new galaxy, shadows clung to the corners. Whispers spread of unrest deep within the remnants of the Zoltan Empire, a young, fiery faction fueled by the lingering resentments their elders tried to suppress. Reports reached Earth of clandestine meetings, hushed talk of rebuilding their military might. Admiral Zhang, now more a legend whispered in the corridors of power than an active leader, was consulted. Her gnarled hands traced ancient star charts that still held relevance.
Pride is a stubborn weed,
she murmured to Earth's new commanders.
It thrives in unexpected places.
Her rheumy eyes, dimmed but not blind, fixed on them.
It seems our work is not yet finished.
A new hidden fleet began to take shape. Not with the clamor of urgency of before, but with a quiet confidence. Decades of peace had allowed technology to become even more refined, ships more deadly. But this new fleet wasn't just about firepower. Earth had become adept at a subtler kind of warfare. Espionage agents slipped into the Zoltan heartland, humans with surgically altered features, playing the role of disgruntled outcasts. They didn't seek to trigger a rebellion, but to monitor, to unravel the web of this new threat. Alongside them, teams of Earth's greatest scientific minds worked not on weapons, but on countermeasures. Disinformation programs designed to sow discord among the Zoltan hardliners went into operation. It was a long, simmering game that could take years to bear fruit. Zhang, in her final briefings from her bedside, stressed patience, a lesson harder for the younger generation to swallow.
We may not live to see the outcome,
the once indomitable admiral told them, her voice frail.
But it is the fight that matters. Remember, we don't build fleets merely to crush our enemies. We do it to ensure there is a future worth fighting for.
Time turned with the slow inevitability of a dying star. Admiral Zhang finally succumbed to nothing more menacing than old age. A quiet passing mourned across 100 worlds. In her wake, the threads she had spun tightened. The Zoltan hardliners, coddled by those who whispered of past glories, finally made their move. It was, in truth, more pathetic than terrifying. A poorly coordinated raid on Earth's outer colonies, fueled more by desperation than strategic cunning. It was the spark Earth had been waiting for. The new hidden fleet materialized like vengeful ghosts, not to conquer, but to deliver a swift, surgical blow. The Zoltan rebels, scattered and ill-prepared, were routed before they could fully muster. Key shipyards, identified through years of careful intelligence, were crippled, not destroyed, but damaged enough to set back any dreams of rearmament for decades. The message was clear. Earth would not tolerate a return to the old ways. Yet characteristically, it was followed by an offer of aid, of technology to rebuild, but with safeguards in place. Among the Zoltan people, opinions were torn. Some saw the humans as hypocrites, quick to wield the very power they sought to deny others. But there were those who understood. They had seen the prosperity born from cooperation, the vibrant exchange of ideas, when fear did not hold sway. These cooler, younger voices began to rise. A new Zoltan leader emerged, one who preached not dominance, but partnership. He was met with skepticism, with accusations of being a human puppet, yet he persevered. On a moon marked by an ancient battle that had nearly decimated his people, he met with human delegation. The terms were negotiated slowly, painfully. There would be no more hidden fleets, either human or Zoltan. Military spending would be capped, with joint oversight from both species. Cultural exchanges would not merely be allowed, but actively encouraged. The agreement, when finalized, was not met with parades or joyous celebrations. There was only a weary relief among the galaxy's inhabitants, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, a lasting peace might finally be taking root. Humans and Zoltan, the instigators of this age, stood not as conqueror and conquered, but as two scarred species, looking wearily towards a horizon that, for the first time in a long while, offered a genuine glimmer of hope. Centuries passed. The galaxy continued to spin, to evolve, to surprise. Humanity, having earned its place without ever truly seeking it, found a new purpose. With the secrets of their hidden fleet slowly shared, Earth's technology became the foundation for a new age of exploration. But this time, it was one undertaken with collaboration, not conquest. Humans, with their relentless curiosity and uniquely adaptable bodies, led the expeditions into the uncharted depths. They were joined by their Zoltan counterparts, once their overlords, now wary but steadfast allies. Strange new worlds teemed with life so alien that it stretched the definition of sentience. Ancient ruins whispered tales of vanished civilizations, their rise and fall a chilling reminder of the precariousness of any galactic order. Each discovery sparked debate, philosophical quandaries, scientific breakthroughs, and always, the specter of Earth's hidden fleet, now a fading echo, served as both caution and inspiration. Power, they learned, was nothing without the wisdom to wield it justly. The children on 100 worlds, human, Zoltan, and others still unknown, grew up hearing tales of the turning point, the moment when their ancestors faced annihilation and found the strength to forge a different path. These stories weren't about heroes or villains, nor were they simple fables of good triumphing over evil. They were lessons of complex choices, of consequences that rippled through generations. The galaxy remained a dangerous place. Factions clashed. Piracy lurked within the shadows of nebulas, and the greed for power was an ever-blooming weed, ready to choke out the fragile shoots of peace. Yet, there was a fundamental shift. Conflicts were resolved more often through negotiation than through fleets. The alliance forged in desperation between humans and Zoltan had, against all odds, proven its worth. The galaxy was not a utopia, nor would it ever be. But on a small, blue world, once dismissed as insignificant, there was a quiet pride. They were humanity, forever marked by their hidden fleet, by the choice to prioritize peace, however imperfect, over endless cycles of domination. And because of their choice, the stars shone a little brighter for everyone.